So hi everyone, welcome to the very first Canvas K-12/P-12 user group for 2023. I hope everyone had an awesome summer holiday. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, we do have a couple of clients that are in the Northern Hemisphere, but most of APAC's in Southern Hemisphere. But yeah, welcome to the new year. And there's been a lot of chatter about some very specific subjects. And we're hoping to continue to have a bit of a chat about how we're dealing with these things in our schools. So as usual, these sessions are very much reflective of us being there in person. So feel free to turn on your cameras and put your hand up if you have something to say. Yeah, we're happy to get everyone involved. It's not a presentation from instructor. This is a community user group. So today's agenda looks like this. So we wanted to have a little bit of a chat about IP protection and IP creation, how you handle that in your schools. I know there's a lot of commonality across schools as to how that actually works, but also how do you handle that in relation to collaboration and equity of resources amongst classes, and also using tools in Canvas such as Commons and even other tools such as Direct Share and being able to share item banks in your quizzes, things like that. So without further ado, I think maybe Carolyn, you had a few things that you were doing at one school that you mentioned previously in relation to this. Did you want to kick us off with sharing what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. And Jackie, please, you know more about the back end than I do in Canvas, so please jump in at any time.
I will.
Okay. But we've got campuses and schools across all of Australia, and we're very much moving towards our teachers collaboratively planning in teams their units of work that they build in Canvas. So the main structure that we use is how we set up our sub-account folders, making sure that we've got the right people in the right sub-accounts so that they can share very easily. We've also got a common template that we use in our secondary setting, and that's in the Commons. So teams pull down that template and use that. So we've got a standardized template across the whole country. But then, as I said, working with sub-accounts, we make sure we've got teachers enrolled in the right sub-accounts so that they can work collaboratively on those units of work. Any more to share, Jackie, around the technical aspects of it?
Probably we have national courses, so they sit in a different sub-account. So what we do is we have each state HOD is enrolled in that national course. They will then take the content that they need and they will use a copy to feature in modules, and they will send it to their state blueprint, and then the blueprints are set up for each child course. So we rely very heavily on blueprints at OSG.
Right, and you're using the copy to function.
Yeah,
right. Yep.
Yeah, which we love. There's a few little tricks to it though that staff sometimes forget to add everything to the module, because we do copy by modules, purely because we're using City Labs and it's built a lot of our Canvas course. That's what our templates sort of built around, the features of City Labs. So we need the module features. So it's staff understanding that everything, discussions, assignments, needs to be in that module so that it's all copied across. What we are finding is state HODs aren't saying, hey, this is missing. They just then recreate the assignment themselves. So it's also that communication of making sure everybody knows what's supposed to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then alerting someone so that only one person needs to fix it, not 3, 4 or 5 people. So it's that time saving.
Do you find people start to get a little bit protective of stuff that they've created, or if so, how do you handle that?
I don't think we do. I've never come across anybody not wanting to share. Probably this year we've mandated that we all have blueprints because we've used Identity One to automate the process of courses, child courses and enrolments. So for best practice, we've made sure that all the child courses are locked where possible. Myself, although I only have one course, one class, I've locked all the pages and everything. So if I'm in the child course, it forces me to go to the blueprint to make sure that everything's in the blueprint. So I think that's one way too of encouraging staff to share, because if they're putting it in their child course, then it really should go through and be checked out to see if it's worth going in the blueprint, because we want that blueprint to be the best course that there is.
Yeah, we've certainly got a quality assurance process for our courses that are built as well. So staff, it's taken a few years, but they've certainly got to the stage now because they're building collaboratively, because they know they're having an evaluation piece, because we give them time towards the end of the year to review their courses and make improvements. There's much more a collaborative culture. We're also got another project happening where we've got schools all over the world as well too. And what we've constantly had for years is, when we've been doing this process, is staff saying, well, show me what it looks like. I want to see examples of really good courses. So another thing that we're doing is, because we can't have a sub-account structure around the world, but we're working on a project where we're calling them annotated courses. So we're collecting different examples of courses across different subject areas all across the world. And we've got a team that are actually creating some videos where they're sharing those courses and annotating them and talking about the strong features within those courses. And we're going to be able to host those videos in a place where staff can access them. They'll be tagged according to subject area. So that'll be a great professional learning tool, but also just a way of teachers being able to see what other teachers are doing in their subject areas.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I know in the past we've talked about some schools have created, and you're not every school is like one school, and they don't have instances all over the world and they're trying to share amongst and things like that. But some people have created, we've talked in the past, creating very limited admin roles so that teachers can see into other courses and things like that. But I suppose having it annotated and say why it's great, and the pedagogy behind it is really fantastic. I suppose you could having that almost like a catalog of courses for them to browse would be fantastic. Does anyone else have anything that they want to share on how you share content amongst courses and amongst different departments or faculties, or just in general across the school?
Well, I can add in a little bit to continue on from that. We tried blueprints for a little while, for a couple of years, and just couldn't quite get it to work in our setting. We've tried to use the sections element to have, one Year 7 English course with multiple sections within it. People felt that it was really restrictive and that there was no freedom to move in my particular course and set a different pathway to other courses. But what that's done, because we want to give our staff the freedom to teach the way they see that works for the students that are in front of them, what it's done is we have a master course, which is really just another Canvas course where they do copy course content from. So we've gone back to our original problem, which we hoped blueprints would fix, where they do a copy course content, copy everything, and then go, oh, someone just put something into the master course. I'll do copy course content again and copy everything again, and end up with 7 copies of the home page. And it just comes down to end user training, I think. And it's just, they come and they deleted the 7th copy, but that was the most recent version. And we start to get this, it gets really complicated. It just takes time for people to realize what the process is to actually make it work for them. Which sometimes in going through that process is a good thing for them to learn, because then they understand better about how it actually works. I'd really love to be able to lock it down like how you have it, and be able to have lots of pages locked, but then we get the frustration of people not having the freedom to do it the way that they want to do it. But that's just our experience.
Yeah, Mark, we don't always lock our pages and assignments and things like that. We do have some pages that will be open so that staff can change things. Best practice for us was when we first set up the blueprint, make sure everything's locked so it is all sent down. So staff don't edit in the child course, because that can break that link. And then as the HOD or the teachers see fit, then they can unlock pages so that teachers can add if they want to. So yeah, it is really hard. We've been Blueprint 6 years, I think. We jumped on the Blueprint wagon when it very first started. And you are right, it's end user training, because we still have some issues, but it always comes down to teachers knowing the functionality of it, what works, what doesn't, and how it works. But
and I think for us that whole remote learning thing too, that kind of come in, you know, 2019 we started to use blueprints, and then we hit 2020. It's like, okay, which battles are we going to fight here? Let's just go back to the old way, because everyone knows how to do it. We might create copies of stuff, but the barrier was lower. And then what we also did is bring in a like a mandated homepage, so that every course has the same homepage with the same layout, learning intention, etc. on it. And I guess to try and put the silver lining in every cloud, the outcome of doing that at the start of when we had so many in and outs of remote learning was that at the end now we have every course that kind of looks the same, or at least very, very similar. So there was some consistency in that. And the good thing is, because now every homepage is an actual Canvas page, there might be 17 copies of it behind there, but the kids can't see the pages button. So they don't actually know that it's there, which for us works. It's sort of success by, you know, just moving it off to the side. They can't actually see it.
That's awesome. And, you know, the using sections and blueprints, they're not mutually exclusive. So you can actually have courses that have multiple sections, like your year 7 maths. You know, you can have, like multiple sections within that single course, but then use a blueprint as your master, like you're saying, Mark, to push that down. Might be worth reviewing. And using in that circumstance. Yeah, I like what Kate said there in the chat. Yeah, the great debate: teacher autonomy versus quality control. Well, I'm gonna. You'll hear me quite often say, for me, what's the end user experience, and the end user being the student, and what's going to provide the best outcome for the student. So, in those decisions, in my opinion, anyway, I think thinking student first, and what's going to be the best outcome for the student, and then obviously supporting your staff and being empathetic to your staff's needs, but reminding them of that as well as can be really useful in helping to get them on board, so to speak. Is there anything else anyone wanted to add to that, just in relation to collaboration, how you go about that at your school, sharing content? Stacey, hand up.
Hi, I just thought, sorry, the air conditioning's buzzing in the background too. Yeah, we've only got one faculty now on blueprints, and we gave all our faculties the option. A few tried, they came off it, but we do, same as Mark, we use sections. We section everything out, particularly for, whole year courses. But the other reason why we do this now is because we have quite a lot of young staff, and sometimes it's good for them to see exemplars of work from more experienced staff or from their head teacher put on there, so that they can actually, their kids won't miss out so much if, if there's something that they're not sure of, and vice versa. Like some of these young enthusiastic types get on there and do all sorts of things, and they're great. And some of us oldies go, oh, that's good, and can use that. So it is, I think that's part of a really good collaboration across faculties with that. The other thing we do, because we're a college, we have the 3 campuses on one instance, and we have our own commons page as well, so we can share across the college too. And it's just, here's what we've done in the college, and other people, at the other campuses can pick it up. So, even things like we've put all my own work on Canvas so that we can track the kids getting it completed and have a look at their answers and everything else. And now, once we've done it, we've built it, then the other campuses can pick it up and use it, and they don't have to build anything and reinvent the wheel. So that's kind of what we're doing. And then we do encourage people to put it in either the Hunter users group, well, the department one that's also on Commons, and then if not, just share it with the wider world. So regardless, we do try and encourage that a lot, only because there's that way of adapting other things. And I figure if we're going to share things, then maybe we'll benefit from other people sharing as it is anyway. But that's kind of how we do it. Did you want to add anything, David? No. There we go. So yeah, that's how we do it here. So I'll put my hand down now.
Are there a lot of people? I mean, don't use the raise hand feature on Zoom, but if your camera's on, raise your hand if you do use Commons at your school.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Most people. Yep. Interesting. Awesome. And I suppose that, there are, like we've mentioned earlier, there are other features that you can use to share that content around. The course copy feature, the copy to function, which is separate to the course copy feature. So I'm not sure, Mark, if you're aware of that functionality, the copy to.
Yeah, someone showed it to me just recently.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yep. Yeah, so that's for content where you're enrolled in, well, either in the same course or also to a different course where you can easily move content from one course to another course that you're enrolled in. And even select where it goes, even the module that you want it to go into, which is really handy. And then the direct share is similar, but it's sharing with another person, and then they can go and grab that and add it into their own courses, which is really handy. Okay, is there anything else? There's a really big, Rachel.
I thought I might share a different perspective on sharing content. So
Yes.
There's been talk of blueprints and standardized courses and copying content from like a main course from Mark's space, like copying a main course into just class spaces, I suppose. We do that to some extent, depending on who's doing what, but we've also started to implement a structure with a sub-account. So we have our faculty sub-accounts or our department sub-accounts. You might have English or you might have science, but I've also then created a secondary sub-account, a sub-account, let's call it, for resources. So there's just a sub-account called, let's say, science resources, and courses within that are just for teachers to collaborate together or store things of interest. Sometimes they might have done a unit of work for a certain period of time. They don't want to lose the content and they want to store it somewhere, and they don't want to have to remember which past course it used to exist in. So we started that process, and so far probably about 50% of our faculties have taken that on board, and we just add in every teacher in the whole faculty to this sub account for resources, and everybody has access to see and moderate or modify anything. And they seem to enjoy it because they're able to collaborate together and there's a lot more visibility. And from our perspective, it's coming from a school where a lot of people were originally against sharing. So that's been a nice little catalyst, I think, to get people to say, oh, well, actually, Jenny over there does some really good work. And if I share my stuff with her, then, we can actually make our courses better for the students.
Yep. So just on the logistics of doing that, so do you create courses for them for each year then that they can copy content into, or do they create their own? Like, do you give them permission to create their own in that sub account? Like, how does that work?
So far, I've created them. So when we create a new resources sub account, I just ask them to give me a list, and it's not extensive. It might be 10 courses. However, what they haven't yet realized, only one person's realized, is that they do have the ability to create their own courses if they wanted to. So I don't expect it will go rogue or people will be creating way too many unnecessary courses. It hasn't happened yet. So they do actually have the ability to, if they wanted to.
Right.
We'll see how that goes.
All right. Well, this recording will be public, so who knows what will happen after today.
That's okay.
Okay, well, no, I appreciate that. And it's good to hear different people using different methods, and there's different perspectives. That's one of the reasons why we have these user groups. All right, is there anything else anyone wants to share before we dive into the chunky topic that I'm sure everyone's wanting to dive into? All right, I'll take that as a no. So let me share my screen again, and I'll just bring this up. So the next topic was talking about ChatGPT and AI in general. And what's your view on using AI in education? And I do know, Stacey and David, you have a lot to talk about on this front. So we'll kick off with you, but I'm sure there'll be a lot that people want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, our kids aren't old enough, obviously, to access ChatGPT legally, and the department has turned it off pending review, so they're having a look at that, but a lot of our teachers can still access it. I started fiddling with it over the Christmas holidays, and I ended up writing my PDP with it. So then I, did a few of my daughter's old HSC questions with it, and I've got some English teachers to mark those, and everything's been improving as it goes. So then I've started throwing all our strategic improvement plan activities in and getting it rewritten as the reflections, the annual reflections. It's been brilliant. So that takes about 10 seconds, and that would have taken me normally, I don't know how long. And then all the ETAMS blurbs. So throw in the ETAM, like the Australian Teaching Standards for Professional Learning, throw in a little bit of what you've been doing, and then regenerate, and you've got the 300 character blurb for ETAMS, and you can pop it into your professional learning. So it's just been absolutely wondrous for things like that. Probably, a wee bit cheaty, but I don't care, because my administrative burden has been reduced massively, hours, massively, just on PDP, SIP, and ETAMS alone. So I mean, happy days, let alone everything else. Yeah, principal's been using it for, we've had a few complaints about the kids at the crossing. So, please write me a polite response to a complaint about the pedestrian crossing. So, dear sir, I'm at it, and away he goes. And it's this beautiful email, the fire we had in the J block. So, the parent email to them, alerting them of the fire, but there's no danger to the children, and, everyone's fine. And, it was just, a small electrical fire and a PowerPoint, blah, blah, blah. So all these things have been done that normally would take 10, 15, 20 minutes that you're doing, and you just put it in, get emails to staff. So there's been a few, and every so often we email Paul back and go, did you write this? No. So it was ChatGPT. So we've been having a great time with it in general. So all those sorts of little tweaks and things we've been really enjoying. And I probably shouldn't, I don't know, but anyway, it's sped up our workload a little bit on the admin side of things, particularly with stuff that's just, normally you've just got to submit things just for the sake of it, for someone else to tick a box. So that side of things has been fabulous. So, and I have recently found out, I actually spoke to my daughters last night online, and I said, any more news on ChatGPT at uni? And my daughter, who's doing first year physics at the moment, said, my lecturer said, go ahead, use it, go for your life, do whatever you want, because, obviously we have to do a paper exam, and they've not changed to paper exams just because of it. But he said, you go for your life, because you'll get all the working. He said, you might understand it a bit more than what I can explain it, or, it might substitute what we're doing and support what you're doing. He said, absolutely go berserk. So that was a really good sign. So I thought that was really nice. But anyway, that's probably, is that all we, and just.
I heard this morning on the news that ASIC's been using it to respond to complaints and sending out thousands of emails with it. So yeah.
We don't have thousands.
I'm not saying that they're being criticised for it.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's what we've been doing, just, admin burden, supporting us in that line of work.
It's interesting you mentioned physics. you know, I was speaking to my son the other week, and he's doing year 11 physics, and as he said, they're not really meant to have access to ChatGPT, but you know, there was a concept that he wasn't understanding in class, and he asked for an explanation from ChatGPT, and it came back with a really complicated answer that he still didn't understand. And then he asked ChatGPT to simplify, and then he got it. You know, it simplified the concept, and then it clicked for him, and he got it. So it could be really handy for a, you know, tutorial thing. Of course, it's difficult to be able to do that in a school setting because of the 18 and up limitation. So does anyone have any thoughts on how you might then be able to use it in an educational setting, considering that you know, most of our students technically aren't or shouldn't be accessing it at school?
It's integrated into Bing on your phone now too. So if you go to the Bing app on any of your mobile phones and you open up the new Bing, it's right there in the bottom, it's right there. So you don't even have to be on ChatGPT to use it now.
Nice. Kate?
Yes, so just for context purposes, I'm a Year 12 English teacher here in Victoria, and we do a lot of essay writing, obviously, and our SACS school assessed coursework is still done handwritten, time conditions. So we do a number of practices leading up to that. And so after the practice, I will often the following day in class, and I do this deliberately in front of the students so they can see the prompt that I'm putting into ChatGPT. I'll put it in class and we'll watch it magically appear on the screen, the essay it generates compared to the essay they've written the day before. And then I've done some experimenting and trialing with the students and saying, okay, well, if I include this descriptor in the prompt, it gives me this type of essay. And if I include this descriptor, so all to do with around quotations and evidence and whatnot. And I'm using it to say, I'm modeling how to get the best out of that platform if they are going to go on and use it at home. And I'm encouraging them. I said, absolutely go and, you know, use it as a starting point. And we've discussed sort of what it's generating compared to our rubric and the standards we expect in the Victorian curriculum. For us, it's still very much an American-based style essay. It doesn't write in the same way we would assess in Victoria. So we spoke about that with the girls and talked about, but what it is doing is it's generating some arguments, which is what they often struggle with the most. And I said, use that as your starting point and then go and write it in the structure that we've taught you with. So I'm sort of using it as a modelling tool. And like the uni lecturer saying, go for it, absolutely do it. And then come back and add to it, get better, basically.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Mark, I see your hand up there.
I think those two things are perfect. I think these tools in the hands of teachers that are willing to give things a try, like you did, Kate, kudos to you. I think it's a really good thing. It's going to be a skill of the future, isn't it? How to actually write prompts to these things and get good data out. And I think Stacey, what she was saying around the teacher workload issue, which is not just I'm from Victoria. It's not just a Victorian thing. It's really a worldwide thing. I think it's key. It has to be generating content semi-automatically or with really good prompts, because people will learn the skills from good teachers. Imagine what that could become. And I think companies, hopefully like Instructure, can get really smart about it and start to build some of these tools into their platforms so that it simplifies it for everyone. Like imagine teacher who's got their course on Canvas, is away for the day, clicks a button and it automatically tells the students what was coming up because it understands what the lesson sequence is, automatically tells people what they need to do. Things like we're doing a topic on, I don't know, rainforests or something like that. Type in the topic into the quiz module. It generates multiple choice quiz questions for you automatically and creates an end of topic quiz. I think there's so much potential for it. And I reckon it will help with the workload issue. We still have to be a little careful with the privacy of data and what we put in there. It's still a bit of a Wild West, I think. And I think people are putting data in there that potentially they probably shouldn't be. You know, every jurisdiction's different, I guess, but that's sort of a bit of an unknown, at least in my head, of like, where does the data actually go? Do we really know? And how do they use your data that you put in there? From what they say, they use it to improve the algorithm. So where does it go? What actually happens to it? My concern that is in the hands of some people who might not share that view, they put data in there that they potentially shouldn't. And how do you get it out? How do you know? I don't know how to have answers to that. I do know also that OpenAI changed their terms of service. So you have to be at least 13 years of old to use the services now. If you're under 18, you have to have your parent or legal guardian's permission to use the services. That's their terms of service. So that's a change that's only relatively recent too, from what I understand.
Wow.
Who reads these things anyway? Does a year 9 read the terms of service, or just click sign in with Google and then they're in? Like,
they don't read it. They
yeah.
just put a fake number in and go, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
born in 1972." No,
Yeah, you just keep changing the date until it works. Yeah. So in a way, we're kind of kidding ourselves if the kids aren't going to use these things. And it might not be ChatGPT. It might be, I forget the one that was popular with us at the end of last year, Quillbot. Go to Wikipedia, copy the text, put in Quillbot, rewrites it, and then you hand it in. Like, there's hundreds and hundreds of these things out there. So hopefully they're all going to be used for good. But just like handing in my sister's essay that did the same assignment last year, what's the difference?
Yeah. So we had there's a couple of things I want to say actually. Thanks Kate and Mark, first of all. Really, really good points. Second of all, so Melissa Lobel, she's our customer experience, CXO, Chief Customer Experience Officer. And she wrote a blog post on our website. I've just put in the chat there, just on the company's position on AI in education in particular. So feel free to have a read of that when you get the chance. It's actually a really good post. And as Ruth mentioned there, we do have product and engineering teams looking at ChatGPT and what might make sense. I don't want to paraphrase this for incorporating it into our product and processes, but need to be very thoughtful in this space. So it's definitely, there's a lot of things to consider, and there are limitations that you need to be mindful of, and Mark's pointed out a couple of those. And we actually had a webinar last week on authentic assessment. If anyone missed it, we'll have that up on the community shortly, the recording from that. And a lot of the focus was around, what are some of the limitations of assessment? And as you say, Mark, if your assignment lends itself to just chucking someone else's work in Quillbot and then regurgitating it, then maybe we need to look at how we're doing our actual assessment. Yeah. And things like Kate was saying, where, if you're commenting on stuff that's been generated by AI, then that becomes a little bit more obvious and easier to measure a student's understanding of the concepts, because they're dissecting what's being produced rather than just regurgitating. So there's a lot of ways that we can use it. And thanks for that link also to the terms of use there, Mark. I wasn't aware of that update to 13 Nova. Does anyone else have any thoughts on particularly some of the limitations that we need to be aware of when it comes to using AI in education?
I've just actually put a link on the chat. There's another one called Replica. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's like you create your own friend in AI, and it could have very negative implications for student wellbeing. So not sure if people have seen that. I've not actually delved into it too much, but it's like, it does send back, creates a friend, and it sends back all the things you want to hear, and it's meant to make your life happy. But there is also a dark side to it. You can actually, and again, you'd have to put in a fake number on your date of birth, but you can actually then get your friend to go a little deeper into the relationship, so to speak. So, but that's one probably to watch out with kiddie wellbeing, and probably lower just kids are a little bit more vulnerable. So that's one I've heard kids going, oh, you know, that, you know, people aren't as nice as my replica. And I go, well, no one's going to be as nice as your replica because you're talking to a robot, and they're telling you everything you want to hear. So anyway,
that's really good to be mindful of. I never heard of it until now, so thank you for that.
It's scary.
All right, so I mean, there are a bunch of other limitations that you need to be mindful as well. Sometimes it doesn't always get it right. The information may be incorrect. I've definitely seen some examples of that when I've used it, but you know, that's also another skill to teach the students. It's just like when they copy paste stuff from Wikipedia isn't always right either. So it's teaching them those analytical skills, helping them to understand that they need to actually do the proper research and you know, dive into the topic and reference multiple sources, not just the one source. Is anyone, Kate gave us a really great example in her classroom. Is anyone on today using it in their classroom? Anyone else? Sorry.
Not yet, because we've been banned. New South Wales are banned, or the department is. But yeah, once we are allowed, I think it'll go berserk. To be perfectly honest, people will be excited. You can actually create lesson plans in there too, like they do. You know, you can do your lesson plans in there. And the other thing we've, you know, trialed, but we've not. Well, we're just playing with it at the moment. Is putting in an answer and then saying, please provide feedback on this, and it spits out the feedback based on what the essay is. So you can put your essay in, or put your question in, and the answer, and then ask for feedback as well, and it'll give you the feedback based on the question. So that's an interesting task to, you know, have a play with. You know, that's sort of a 6 a.m. kind of job or something. But you know, it doesn't give bad feedback, like it's very generic, but it's still not bad. And I think once the AI, you know, once it keeps improving, I know the marking of the essay that we did in late December, early January, we've put the same essay question in and the essay got better. So it went from sort of a low C, that was our boss marking it, to sort of a closer to a B now. So it's getting there. So the AI is improving greatly. But feedback was good. And then we thought, oh, maybe it can write our report comments, but we're not there yet.
I'll be writing my report.
Paul, can I say something at this stage?
Yeah, Phil, jump in.
Yeah, I'm just interested to hear what the group thinks about just that, about writing reports. If you found a product that uses AI to turn dot points into fully literate paragraphs, and I'm thinking of assessment feedback in Canvas, I'm thinking about possibly tutorial reports. Is that something, obviously it's going to save time, but is that something we should be pursuing for teachers? That idea of something that can take dot points and turn it into fully fluent paragraphs.
Philip, I think it's an interesting point, because I think the thing about feedback is it doesn't matter really how brilliant the feedback is that teachers give unless students act on it. Dylan Williams done a whole piece of work around that. So I think there's a lot of efficiencies that AI could do in terms of providing the feedback to students. We still have a job as educators then to support our students to act on that feedback. How do they take that feedback and use it? Because I don't know about you, but I see so many times teachers working harder than students sometimes in providing that feedback for them. And then quite often the students don't act on it. So anything that's efficient and accurate in terms of giving the feedback, but it's still going to need an education piece and around students helping them how to actually act on that feedback.
What do you think parents would say if they were to realise that it was actually being AI assisted in terms of the comments? Now, obviously, your dot points are completely authentic from the point of view of being generated by a teacher. But do you think that would diminish our brand, if you like, if parents were to realise that AI was was assisting, or would they say smart work, or what would they think?
Well, I mean, the other thing about feedback is it has to be timely, doesn't it? And actionable. So if this assists that the feedback's given in a formative way, in a timely way, once again, it becomes what's the role of the teacher then. If that frees a teacher up, in my mind, to really personalise, like once again, supporting that child to act on it, holding them to account to, or resubmit it, have another go, where have you actually acted on this feedback? It gives them more time to do that. I think parents, I think helping them understand how it's a shift in the work of teachers, but it actually frees us up to do some of the things that can't be automated.
I suspect.
Sorry.
Sorry, Phil. I was going to say, I suspect parents will eventually start to expect that it's going to be used. Is my gut. It's a tool that is available that they may even be using in their jobs, in their roles in work. So I think, and I'm happy for anyone else to have a differing opinion on this, but I would suspect that parents, there may be a couple of parents that might initially think, that's laziness from the teachers or whatever it is. But I think if it's supported in the way that Carolyn's pointing out, that, this is actually helping us to be better because we're giving that feedback more timely. It's helping us to then be a bit more personal in helping the student in improving as a result of that feedback, then that could be a good thing. It's probably, some of it's probably more about how you frame it as well.
Phil, I'd pose two things to you. It's all about transparency. It's about how you inform your parent community that you're going to do it. And if it's framed around that idea of teacher efficiency and effectiveness and timeliness, as Carolyn said. The other point is putting student info, like even if it is their assessment task, into these tools. There's a bit of a line there around it. Like, I don't know if anyone's done a privacy impact assessment on ChatGPT or the like tools. There is a bit of a grey line around putting other people's content. And I know it's a student content, but I think we need to be a little careful around that and what the implications of, like, trying to get that data back out, get it deleted, where does it go, who can use it? There's a little bit to that. So I wonder where that's going to take us and what I don't have the answers, but it's an interesting point, I think.
Yeah, I just originally when ChatGPT started up, or we became aware of it before Christmas, it was more, my initial thoughts were, well, it's scraping data from 2021, but where's the copyright with the data that's being scraped? And you know that open AI is anything but open. We'll never find out.
Yeah.
So that's along the lines there. But I'm happy to put this into the chat. But I just saw a product that actually does exactly that in terms of takes dot points and turns it into beautifully fluent paragraphs. Well, I don't know about beautifully fluent until you try it, but if anyone's interested, I'm happy to put it up there.
Go for it, Phil.
Yeah.
I
kind of think, sorry.
No, you go.
I've always sort of tried to compare it to, like, I don't know, the Thermomix. The Thermomix is this machine that you often have in the kitchen, and it was often sold as being, this will do everything for you. You don't need anything but the Thermomix. But even with the Thermomix, you still need human interaction. And that's what I think is the same with ChatGPT. You will still need human interaction to either explain the comment from ChatGPT or to feed the comment in. Like, I suppose what I was hearing you say is, are we making ourselves redundant by going really heavily down that route? Are we making ourselves redundant? And I think, as shown with the Thermomix, you're still going to need to be in the kitchen to cook the meal. Like if I'm still going to be in the classroom to teach the lesson is how I've seen it.
Absolutely.
Nice analogy. Stacey?
I was just going to say about the report comments. I don't know about anybody else, but as a parent, to be perfectly honest, I hate reading report comments from teachers because they are, it's got to meet the outcome there. It's the 4-line process. Like, here's what we've done. Here's the outcome that, you should have met. And then it's the last sentence that's got areas for improvement. So I only ever read the last sentence on my kids for about the last 8 years. So for me, report comments, if there's something that can spit out, at least the first 4 lines or the first 3 lines, and then I go, Paul actually improved this year because he actually listened for the very first time, whatever. But, it's just, I don't know. I look at report comments, any help I would absolutely welcome it. So, and to be honest, we've had a bank of report comments in Central for years. So we just go bloop, 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 done. And we've got the schema at the top, that's all the same for all the kids. It's very generic. And the only thing that, I think is probably really worthwhile, because it's, twice a year, and we all know reports are not timely because they're usually out 4 to 6 weeks after. And then, it's just the area, like the effort in class. That's what I look at for my kids in particular. It's the feedback on Canvas from all the assessment tasks that I always looked at for my kids. That's exactly what I
made reports.
Yeah, sorry, Paul, I just picked on you. So, but
observer accounts have made reports redundant.
Yeah, observer accounts. David just said it's made all reports redundant because parents can see what's going on every day, and they see the feedback and they can see that, and the message students who, bang, they're busted if they're not handing things in. And I love that because the helicopter parents or the, whoever's at home, they're all over it. So the observers are just having a great time. So they don't, their reports, those bits of paper that come out, semester 1 and semester 2.
We've moved to ongoing reporting because of that. So now we use Canvas, we educate parents, we have expectations from teachers. So we don't do the old school semester report anymore. They do get a 1-page document from Central printed out with grades. But as for comments and things like that and feedback, we're getting parents to go into their child's account, Canvas course, and then contacting the teacher if they feel there's a need at that point in time. And
that's what we're looking to, is like the learning mastery and working towards that. That's
one thing we did find though, which is if you do move that way, is for teachers to understand that the time that you would have spent at the end of the semester is now broken up into the week, giving more quality feedback, timely feedback. So you do pick up some time, but that time still has to be spent in there. And that's where some teachers just thought they didn't have to do really anything else. They didn't have to change anything. But yeah, we really enjoy it too.
No, we'd love to do that. We're just trying to get around the policy at the moment.
Can't help you there, sorry.
Okay, so Kate, you have a question. So before we move on to that, is there anything else anyone wanted to comment on in relation to AI in education? And we've actually got a couple of things that we wouldn't mind having a chat to you about, but if there's nothing else related to this, we'll move on to Kate. All right, I think that's over to you, Kate.
I just wanted to check with you, and I'm not sure, maybe the brains here might be able to help with us. As a school, we've made a decision, we made it a couple of years ago at the school level, I suppose via the desktop application of Canvas. We have switched off the function in the mark book for students where they can see the highest and the lowest result. We've made a decision to switch that off. However, the students have come to us, or more so our senior students, have said that this is actually still visible in the app that they have on their phone. So they can actually see that in the app. Is it the switching off in the desktop and the switching, or I suppose I don't think we've got control of the app. Is that correct?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head the answer to that.
Does anybody else have that switched off at their schools, or is it all switched on?
We have ours switched off.
Yeah. We just discovered last year that the students, when they log into via the app to get their results, they can actually still see that information. And we don't mind that for our VCE students, but we had made a strategic decision that we didn't want to make that information visible to our junior school year 7 to 10. So, you know, obviously once word gets around, then they all know how to find that information.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We might take that one offline and see if that's something that
yeah, I was going to say it might be worth just raising a support ticket for that to kind of investigate whether it is a bug or whether it is just a limitation in general. And then from there we can kind of advocate for that if something that is something that, you know, is required from a K-12 sense, because we're kind of here to kind of hear some of those ideas, and we can got the product manager on the call as well, so we can kind of speak to her and vouch for that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Speaking of, Ruth. So for those who don't know Ruth, we have Ruth Thornton, who is our international product manager for the Asia Pacific region, and there's a few things that have been happening recently on the product front. And Ruth, did you want to share a couple of things with us, particularly around the upcoming admin analytics to start to kick us off?
Yeah, I think just with time, I do apologize, there's a baby in my house, so he might be a bit loud in the background, but thank you very much all of you for the opportunity to listen in today. It's really interesting, all the comments around AI and all the other things that have sort of been mentioned today. I've been diligently taking notes and thinking about some of the trends that have kind of come up. So no, thanks so much for sharing, everybody. And yeah, would love to be able to talk a little bit about a very exciting development that's coming to Canvas at the end of the month. So hopefully this will be really meaningful for all of you. And I'll go ahead and share my screen and we can just have a quick look at this. In terms of what you just mentioned about the mobile app and the sort of discrepancy there between desktop and the mobile app, Kate, I will definitely have a chat to the mobile team about that, but definitely, as Rio suggested, pop it in as a support case so that can be investigated that way also. Alrighty, can everybody see my screen? Yep, brilliant. Okay, so I guess I just wanted to very quickly share, and Paul, stop me when we get to time, because this is such a cool topic, it's hard not to get excited, but just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of a little project we've been working on around improving the ability for admins to understand essentially how Canvas is being used at your school or your institution, and how that then helps inform all the different decisions that you need to make day to day, whether that's in course design or supporting student engagement or people that are maybe falling behind, or just generally return on investment and how Canvas is actually being adopted across the school or schools, and different initiatives that might be required in terms of improving teacher engagement or training, and you know, illuminating some of those areas that might need to be a focus to improve Canvas at your school. So as you can see here, just a couple of highlights I wanted to cover off, and then I'm going to show you a few screenshots and essentially what each of these three dashboards would be covering. But it's a brand new tool within Canvas LMS. There is no additional tools. There's no additional sort of cost associated with that or subscription that you need to make. This is all part of the product offering that everybody has. And as you know, today we have some very sort of basic analytics for administrators and sub-account admins in the analytics and statistics sort of view. And then there's also some course analytics in there as well, which are a little bit more modern and more granular in what they're able to offer. But really the purpose of this tool, as I sort of said, is to cover off on those areas around usage and adoption and student engagement and course design. So there are interactive dashboards that you'll see loaded as part of this tool, and you'll be able to click on any of the interactives in there and download and export the data that's representing each of those data points as well. So hopefully we've had some fantastic engagement from some institutions from APAC in our beta testing of this tool. And our timeline at this point is for this to be released at the end of the month. So March 29 is when we're looking for this to move to general availability, and that will be done as a feature preview. So something where you'll be able to opt in to use it, and there will be a subsequent community user group that you can jump in and keep up to date with all the feedback and updates that are happening for the product. And then at this point, depending on that feedback, that might shift based on how users respond to it. But essentially, this will then become on by default for everybody from July. So you can trust me when I tell you this is a much better offering than what Canvas has today, and there's no reason why you wouldn't want it on. But that is the sort of timeline that we're targeting at the moment for when this will be on for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you a little snippet of the 3 dashboards, and then we will, if there's any questions and things like that, then we can go from there. But this is all our dummy data, so it's fine to sort of showcase some of these screenshots for you. But this is the first of the tabs or the dashboards in the new analytics tool. And as you can see at the top, all of the 3 dashboards have filtering, which is what we haven't been able to offer previously. And this is something that either admins or sub-account admins, if they have the appropriate permissions, will be able to see for their area of Canvas. So as a root account admin, you would be able to see this for everyone, but you might also have heads of department or heads of faculty and things like that, depending on what your sub-accounts represent. They'll be able to see this sort of information for the courses in their sub-account that they have permissions for, if you give them the powers to sort of do so. So there's some fantastic granularity in the filtering that we're able to offer here. But this first dashboard around the overview is really around feature and tool adoption, which are the things in Canvas that people are engaging with, whether that's students or teachers, and are they really adopting Canvas? Like, how is this actually happening over time, and being able to get a sense of that and compare term to term or across different time periods or in different sub-accounts. And what percentage of students are active? What do course grade averages and distributions look like across the school or across the filters that you have applied? So that really top level sense of how is Canvas being leveraged in the area that you're drilling into. The second tab or the second dashboard is our course dashboard. And this is really for admins to be able to understand feature usage, course publication, so how many courses are created and all the different statuses. Are they published with or without activity, or are they concluded, or are they not yet published? So a really handy one when we're about to see the beginning of term or semester, how many courses are there but haven't yet been published, and how many are ready to go. But also, what does it look like for student activity and how are outcomes sort of being met across those courses? So some of the questions we'd expect you to be able to answer from this one are things like how many courses are active in Canvas and how. What does it look like in terms of which features are being used in those popular courses? So maybe that's a lessons for other teachers that are maybe newer or struggling with adoption and things like that. You can sort of see in those really high performing courses, what does that look like, and which features are popular in there. And also, as I said, which courses are published with or without activity, and that sort of interaction or inactivity of users within courses at any given time. Some of you might recognize some of the data and the graphs in here. Some of these are similar data points to what you might have been shown in EBRs and things like that in the past. So being able to have this at your disposal and to be able to look into here and access some of this information without needing to wait for your CSM or your CSM team to provide that for you is super powerful as well. And then the last dashboard, and this is just a couple of examples from that dashboard. There's a few other things that are on there as well, but this is our student dashboard. So this is really around student engagement and being able to answer things like, are students succeeding in all of their courses, or what does their performance and their engagement look like, not just within the course, but being able to see at the user level, how is this student going across their 5, 6, 12 enrollments, however many courses they might be in. Which students have missing or late assignments, and what percentage of those students maybe don't have any activity in the last however many days. So there's some filtering and things like that you're able to apply as well in terms of what constitutes participation and engagement for your school. So I'm very, very excited about this, having been a customer and having been a CSM before my current role, and having spoken to lots and lots of institutions across sectors around some of the gaps and the limitations they have in understanding Canvas, or rather what's happening in Canvas at any given time. So really looking forward to this launching, just in a couple of weeks' time. But are there any questions while I'm here? I'm sure you have a few.
Yes, I do. Sorry, I'm just
go for it. Yeah.
Hang on. There we go. So we've got tentacle insights from Octopus, but is there much difference to that at all with the student breakdown in particular?
Yeah, so I would say I haven't seen Tentacle's product in recent months, but there's certainly, if you keep in mind, Canvas is obviously leveraged by thousands of institutions worldwide, and this is moving into native part of Canvas. So people who are leveraging Canvas for higher education, for K-12, for vocational education, this is a product that needs to be really fit for purpose across the board. So for that reason, it won't have the same level of, I suppose, K-12 specific data points and things like that you might get from a product like Tentacle. So you would need to do a bit of a comparison around what's going to be most meaningful for you in terms of the two different data sets. But my initial thought there is this will provide some similar data to that in some areas, and there'll be other things that Tentacle offers that this doesn't.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. Great question. Any others?
Everyone's
Or just
pretty
general
quiet.
feedback. Hopefully this is something
Yeah.
people are interested in and this is exciting for you. This is something you'll use.
Does this also, actually, I've got another one. Sorry, does this also break down into learning mastery as well?
Yeah, so outcomes are an area we've had some great feedback around actually in terms of outcomes and the reporting around outcomes. At the moment, admin analytics won't include the granularity of outcomes and learning mastery, but that is something the product team have heard a lot about in the beta interview. So it may be something that we're able to incorporate in future iterations of it.
What about observers and student view? Is that going to be something, or is it just for administrators and teachers?
It's only for administrators. So someone would have to have an admin role and be given the appropriate permissions to be able to see this. So even teachers in general in a teacher role wouldn't be able to see this unless they have an admin role.
So there's your point of difference, because that's what Tentacle does.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
All right. I'm just mindful of the time. We're just a couple of minutes past. There's one more thing. First of all, are people excited about this at all? Like, is okay? All right, good. Everyone's just very quiet today.
Sorry, I should have said absolutely love the ideas that are coming through, particularly with that third dashboard. Being able to see a holistic picture of the student in one place will just be incredibly helpful. And I'm just written down, for us, it'll, that'll be really, great for our deputy principal in curriculum, our careers counsellor, our student wellbeing counsellor. It was so tricky having to get into individual courses to get the full picture. So to have it in one place will just be a game changer. And the fact that that's free and will be built in will be excellent. Looking forward to it.
That's awesome. That's great feedback. And I think there's a lot of integration in that, you can click on a student, you can see all the number of courses on those graphs, but if you were to click on that number, it'll show you which courses those are, and you can then click on those to be taken to those courses if you want. So there's great integration across the actual platform itself.
Very cool. So there's one more thing just before we wrap up. We are actually in the process of gathering some feedback in relation to Canvas for Elementary. I know that's viewed a lot as a K6 type of product, but even if you have high school students or senior school students at your school and you're interested and you've had the thought, I would love to turn that on for our senior school, but X, we'd love to hear what that X is. And so if you are interested in providing that feedback, then please feel free to reach out to the CSM team and we'll see if we can organize a meeting with the product team to grab that feedback from you. But yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to cover off. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming today. It's been really a good, robust discussion. And the recording of this will be available in the coming days. We'll put it up on the community and please feel free to share that amongst other staff at your school. But thanks everyone for coming along and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.